Good afternoon and welcome to Bull Market Talk Show. This is your host, Rian Robson, and we're doing basically today, according to me, the last peak of the market, in which I talk about the NASDAQ and the Dow Jones, oil, Australian dollar, South African rand, everything. We will look at charts also, and we can see actually where it goes. But as things stands, for me personally, I think we are in the last peak until something weird will actually happen. But please don't forget to subscribe for my YouTube page, and also please leave your comments, and then I will reply for you via actually a message, or actually I will answer it via the live show. Now, as I said, we might see the last peak, and I think we might see actually quite a violent reaction, not just from the currencies, but also from the crypto. For me personally, I think crypto, especially Bitcoin, the big one, I think it's a bit oversold for me, and I think it's about to move up. It's actually holding quite nicely at about 30,000 against the US dollar, and I think that is done, and I think it might actually go up. Now, there's a few things before I get to today's show. There is actually tomorrow or later on, there is the ECB that will release their policy statement, or what they're going to do with the interest rates. We all know now that they will leave the interest rates as it is. Christine Lagarde is a bit dovish, and I think she will be dovish as with her new policy of 2% symmetric inflation, where she thinks the economy can run a bit hot. So I think she will be dovish. But I don't think it will hurt much the euro. I honestly doubt that. I think the euro did went down previously, and I think it will not go further down. She will try and excuse me. She will try and push it a bit down, but I doubt she will actually do get it right, because I think the bulls are basically out today. Also, on the other thing, excuse me. Also, on the other thing, there was a very bullish comment from the deputy governor of the Bank of England, where he talked about the monetary policy and also the economy of Britain. And he said the economy in Britain is actually very, very good. It's really doing well. Also, the inflation that is up, and it will actually also simmer down. It will be temporary. That is what he said, and which I don't think that is actually possible, but I will explain later on that on the show. But he actually made very hawkish comments, and that is currently where the British pound is actually going up. It's because of him, because obviously was talking very good about about the British economy, and I think that is actually why the British pound is actually going up. The thing is about today's show, there's a lot of things that I was actually looking at, but one thing that I did look at, which I always look at, is actually South African rand. Not always I look at South African rand. I normally look at the Australian dollar, but today I will use the South African rand, and because the Australian dollar and the South African rand move actually similar, and they are all driven by commodities. And once these currencies are doing well, that is where global growth is actually doing well. Now, I will just share my screen with you. The rand to $15. Actually, that is a very good question. For now, I think there is a bit of weight in the South African rand because of the commodities that are going up, especially gold is a bit up and down, but I think gold will move towards 1800, 1825. For the short term, I think the rand will actually strengthen a bit more, and I will actually put up a chart for you. Maybe later on, yes, I can say the rand might go to a 15. For now, I think the rand is actually sitting quite comfortably there at 14.55. Also, we have the governor that will talk, and I think he will be a bit hawkish as well. And I think that might give the rand an extra boost. So please be careful there on the rand. I doubt it will happen now where it will reach 15. I'm just going to share my screen with you. All right, there we are. Okay, this is actually a chart that I have on with the rand. I'm just actually trying to get this for you up. This is the chart where I got up for the rand. The rand is sitting actually quite comfortably at 15.55, and you can see there's actually quite a lot of support there by the 50-day EMA and also the 200. The 100 and the 200 EMA that sits actually quite comfortably there, and there is actually quite a lot of things that goes on with the rand. Um, there was also a question now the other day with the protest that goes on. Why is the rand not actually performing weak? The thing is, commodities are still high. Gold prices are actually quite firmly your copper, iron ore, and those type of things, platinum that South Africa exports, that are actually in good shape. So for me personally, that is what keeping the rand now, and there's quite a lot of liquidity across the world. So that is still holding the rand, even though with the protesting and everything, those commodities are still holding the rand quite strong. And I did try to answer the guy with this question. Well, he was still going on with his white monopoly theory, but the commodities are still holding up for the South African rand, and I do think that the rand will actually strengthen a bit more against the. Although it sits here, the dollar is actually sitting quite comfortably there. Maybe it will go maybe to 14.60, but which I doubt. I think the rand can strengthen for me personally because I do think that the gold price and all the other commodities still have a lot of legs to go. So temporarily, I think the rand will still strengthen, even though we have our problems in South Africa. And I personally think in the short term it will go a bit up. Let's just look at the Australian dollar. Australia, this is the one that this is actually one of my favorite currencies. With the Australian dollar, there is actually, let me see, it's sitting now at 0.7378. Personally, I can see it retrace a bit. Personally, I think the Australian dollar will still go up, even though there is problems of lockdown in Australia. But the thing is, as I say, as long as the Federal Reserve stay dovish, the advanced economies, which is now the European Union, the British, and obviously the United States and China, these guys are still staying very dovish. And I think that gives a lot of weight for these commodity currencies like the rand, the New Zealand dollar, and also the Australian dollar. I personally think Australian dollar will surely reach about 0.74. Look, I look at things long term. I don't go in every day trying to switch trades and jump up and down and all of the show. If I look at things, I look at the commodity price, I look at the policy statements of these different central banks, especially the advanced economies, and then I take the trade and I leave it the hell alone. That is where you chop and change every day. That is where actually you normally burn your fingers. So trade with a low volume, leave the trades alone. Please drop your comments. I will try and answer them. Thanks a lot for your comments. So this is actually the Australian dollar, and I think there is still a lot of legs to go there. If you look, for example, at the Dow Jones, oh sorry, the US 30. Let me see there. You have the US 30. Look, there's still a lot of movement until it reached that resistance line there. So for me personally, with the Federal Reserve that are dovish, I still think the US 30 can still go up. Maybe retrace a bit, maybe be a bit choppy around there, but definitely go up. As I said, as long as the central banks stay dovish, still gonna pump in a lot of money to the economy, I can't see how this bull market will stop. Honestly, I don't see how it will stop. But there is one thing that it can burn out. Definitely it will. But for now, inflation, they literally, I can say, brush away inflation, and they don't see a problem with inflation. What I do have a problem, and this is what I see later on, not now. Maybe in September, October, that is where the things will come to surface. This is actually a chart that I actually brought up. This is the new fundamental chart. It's actually a program that I use. It's called the charts. Now, For me personally, this is where the problems is, and this will actually materialize later. Now, just to give you a quick explanation, the US consumer inventories is in purple, and then you have the ISM manufacturing backlog. Backlog, please. Backlog, and that is in orange, and then we have the US unemployment rate, which is the thick red line. Now, this is the factory, or this is the goods inventories. It's still going up. This is the backlog, although it came down, but look, it is still a huge problem. What we assume normally, this is not just in the United States, this is in Europe, Britain, and it's the same story. Sorry, in United States, Europe, and in Britain, because that is the data that I actually went through. Now, you would assume that the unemployment rate would have actually gone down because of this high demand of inventories and obviously this heavy backlog. So we would assume that unemployment would have gone down at least to where it was before the pandemic. If you look at, for example, at other charts, this is also Germany's unemployment rate, United States unemployment rate, United Kingdom's unemployment rate. Now, as you can see, this is now the Germany's unemployment rate, British unemployment rate at 4. It's quite flat. I'm just going to actually make this thing a bit bigger for you. 5 years. 5 years, and then you have the United States, which is in black. So we have the United States in black, we have the British in orange, and then we have in blue, we have the Germans. So basically, the United States went up, the unemployment rate came a bit down, but it's stuck at about 5.9. In fact, it actually went up. The same applies to Germany. The unemployment rate went slightly up, and it still stays there. And then you have Britain. We have 4, which is in blue. It's at 3.7. It's actually now sitting at about 4. It's a bit outdated here. But the unemployment rate is still actually going upwards. So we would normally assume that unemployment rate would have gone down, but that is actually not the case. You would have, because of the heavy demand that I just showed you here on inventories on the United States, for example, you would expect unemployment rate to be at 4% or maybe at 3%, but that is not the case. So which means you will have actually unemployment. And I think these central banks is totally underestimate the inflation rate. Now, once the inflation rate is spiral out of control, that is where central banks are going to clamp down on inflation by lifting up the interest rates, and that is where all the mayhem will start. For now, they downplay the whole inflation story, and that's why nobody fears the inflation, and that's why we're seeing actually a bull market. Well, while the market is going up, there will be stuff that will come in that disrupt the bull trade. But you don't have to now close the trades, or maybe you can just wait, because that is what it happens. You just go down, you buy the dip, and then it just go back up again. Until central banks are talking about they need to taper, especially from the advanced economies, that they need to taper or they need to shrink or they need to increase the interest rates, that is where maybe you can actually start now in a sell-off mode. But for now, they all downplay the whole inflation story. They say it's transitory. So why not buy it up? Buy the Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. That is just my opinion. Australian, New Zealand dollar, the Dow Jones, NASDAQ, all of those things. The bull market will just continue. But please be aware, once those central banks starts to panic, that is where they will start to clamp down on inflation, and that is where they will try to lift up interest rates or to stop tapering. Thanks a lot for the comments, and please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page, and then I will see you tomorrow again at 1 o'clock. See you guys. Bye-bye.